In adverse times like this, it's good to reflect on the rugged anti-fragility of decentralized blockchain ecosystems like Cardano. They can try to outlaw us, to co-opt us, to take us over. But at the end of the day, crypto was made for this, and we are very hard to kill. Ready? Let's go. Today, we are going to discuss some of the goings-on in the recent House Financial Services Committee hearing featuring Jay Powell and related to two important bills coming out of that committee soon, along with a very rare acknowledgement. If your sensibilities are offended by the condition of this couch, despite the fact that it's literally in the middle of the desert and right next to a gigantic camel, or if you're finding value in these videos each weekday, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. Today was the day we got to see Fed Chairman Jay Powell's semi-annual testimony before the House Financial Services Committee. So this committee has popped up a lot on this channel recently. And the main reason for that is not that they're the committee that the Fed has to communicate with quite often. It's mainly because there are a lot of members of this committee on both sides of the aisle who are very pro-crypto. We've got the chairman of the committee, Chairman McHenry, Representative McHenry. We've also got representatives like Davidson who are very focused on crypto. We've also got people on the other side of the aisle, like Representative Richie Torres, who is also very pro-crypto. So we get a lot of discussion of crypto issues out of this committee, which is fitting. It's the House Financial Services Committee. I mean, what are we in crypto if not a bunch of financial networks? I know we do a lot of other things, but certainly we are a part of the financial world, albeit a new, novel, and sometimes unwelcome new part of the financial world. But we learned some pretty interesting things. Most of this hearing was about the Fed and inflation and the federal funds rate and unemployment and pretty much any kind of economic factor that could weigh into the Fed's decision as to how best to combat inflation that you can imagine. All of those things were discussed over a very long hearing as normal, several hours. But there were some very interesting little tidbits about crypto. So the first piece is this, and this is some very welcome news. Chairman McHenry, I should just call him Representative McHenry so we doesn't get confused between Fed Chair Jay Powell, but Representative McHenry, who's the chair of this committee, announced that it's his intention to have markups of two things the second week of July. Why the second week of July? Because of July 4th. If you're not in the US, July 4th is a very important patriotic holiday, Independence Day, very important in the US, and they certainly do take a break for that. But the second week of July, he hopes to have a markup of two different things: a digital asset market structure bill, which we've discussed previously on this channel in detail, and a stablecoin bill. This is very interesting. He seems very focused on this. He's not messing around. He's going to try to have a markup of both those bills the second week of July. This is U.S. federal legislation. This is the U.S. Congress. We don't know what happens after they have that markup in their committee. It leaves committee. It's this crazy process that we followed many, many times with many different bills on this channel. We don't know what happens. We don't know how long that road is. We don't know how many compromises have to be made, how many edits. It's even hard to predict what comes out of the markup process. But this is an excellent start. The digital asset market structure bill proposal that we've talked about in detail on this channel, not a bad start at all. And pretty much anything they do on a stablecoin bill that doesn't just say we're going to have CBDCs and no actual stablecoins, pretty much anything like that would be an improvement. Anything other than forget about stablecoins, here's your CBDC, anything other than that would probably be an improvement over where the current administration wants to go, where the executive branch wants to go with crypto. So these two things might be a very, very good start. Next up, we got the Q&A section of the hearing with Chair Powell, and one of the first interesting crypto questions came from Representative Waters. You're probably aware Representative Waters seems to hate everything about crypto. She's very anti-crypto and just seems to kind of toe the party line of the administration. She definitely is saying exactly whoever is orchestrating all of the Operation Choke Point 2.0 stuff, she is definitely reading questions that are very much in line with that agenda. In fact, this particular question, you could tell very obviously she was reading word for word from a script, seemingly with absolutely no improvisation. So you can guess this question was probably orchestrated by exactly the same people who have been doing all these very anti-crypto things for months and months and months. Chair Powell's answer, on the other hand, didn't seem to be that. I haven't really gotten the sense that he's a part of that group that is so very anti-crypto and trying to strangle crypto in the crib, if you will. And his answer kind of seems to kind of signal a change in the direction generally in Washington. The atmosphere around crypto seems to have slightly changed. And I've talked about this in videos in the past. I think as we get closer and closer to the election season proper, you're going to see a softening of all kinds of stances because, of course, the current administration doesn't want to alienate voters. And I think we're already starting to see some cracks in that anti-crypto stance, and we're seeing a lot of softening. And the answer that Chair Powell gave to this question, I think, is kind of signifies a little bit of a softening in that whole atmosphere. Here's what he had to say in response to Representative Waters.
We do see payment stablecoins as a form of money, and in all advanced economies, the ultimate source of credibility in money is the central bank. And we believe that it would be appropriate to have quite a robust federal role in what happens in stablecoins going forward, and that leaving us with a weak role and allowing a lot of private money creation at the state level would be a mistake. But nonetheless, again, I do appreciate that we've been able to be heard and share our views with the committee.
Obviously, your opinion could differ from mine on this, but to me, that seemed like a very different tone. I've never heard. Chair Powell is always very polite. He's very polite, very cordial. That's probably why he's been able to rise to the Fed chair position, despite not being an economist. He's a lawyer. He's not even an economist, but somehow he became chair of the Fed. And I think that's because he is so practiced and polished in terms of, human interacting with other humans. He's very, very cordial, very polite. But here he was basically thanking the committee for even being asked a question about stable coins. And I think this reflects the growing reality that Congress might actually be able to turn around and pass some crypto legislation. Chair McHenry and Richie Torres and Davidson and Emmer, and in the Senate, we got Lummis and Gillibrand and a whole bunch of others. There's a lot of people in Congress who are ready to pass some legislation because they've seen what's happened. They've seen what Gary Gensler has done to crypto, and a lot of people in Congress don't like this anymore than we in crypto like it, because a lot of them are also in crypto. They're also involved in crypto. They're also excited about the potential for crypto. And I think there's this growing reality within the executive branch, and obviously with Chair Powell here. I think they realize that there might be enough people in Congress to actually pass some of this legislation, and they might just pass some legislation that allows the issuance of things like stable coins and just sort of bypasses the Fed and bypasses all of the things that the executive branch would like to see happen. And then you've got the other bill, the digital market infrastructure bill, or whatever they end up actually calling that bill. And that bill could just bypass the SEC. It could, not completely. They're carving out a role for the SEC, but a highly diminished role. I think there's a little bit of an acknowledgement from the executive branch here that they could be kind of cut out of the picture. I mean, there's a lot of things they can do to fight this. Biden can try to veto any bill, but this gets harder and harder the closer we get to the election. And I think they see they're kind of running out of time. The window during which they can be really tough on crypto, be really anti-crypto, and not have to worry about alienating too many voters too close to the election, that window is closing. And I think they're seeing that crypto might not be as easy to kill as they thought. That sentiment was echoed when Representative Davidson's turn came. He had kind of an interesting question for Chair Powell. And again, it kind of to me signifies sort of a change of the wind in DC, sort of an acknowledgement by everyone on each side that the administration is going to have to soften its position because there's a possibility that Congress could just go ahead without them. And the administration is going to be left looking like they're the anti-technology, anti-progress administration. So listen to what Representative Davidson asked Chair Powell and Chair Powell's response.
Some of the dynamics that are going on in the market related to banks, non-banks, securities, not securities. One agency in particular has been very activist in this place over at the SEC, and it's kind of tangentially related to the Fed. But crypto and digital assets in the U.S. has got a market cap of around $1.1 trillion right now. It's been there for a bit. Do you acknowledge that this asset class has staying power in the U.S. economy?
It appears to have some staying power. Of course, that $1.1 trillion was, what was that a year ago? A lot higher.
Yeah, it's had some volatility in large measure due to the lack of legal clarity, and so hopefully this committee will help that quite a lot here this summer with at least two bills, one on stable coins and one on market structure, and it'll be clear not just for Congress but for regulators, including Chairman Gensler, and obviously market participants, whether they're forming the ideas or investing in the ideas or participating in the activities in the space.
How do you like that little jab from Powell? So Davidson just asks Powell to acknowledge that crypto has some staying power. Powell is sort of forced to grudgingly acknowledge some amount of staying power on the part of crypto, but then he has to take the little jab because he's a part of the old system. He's not a part of this new crypto stuff. He's a part of the old system, the legacy financial system. So he says, yeah, but since you mentioned the $1.1 trillion market cap, what was the market cap a year ago? Completely gratuitous. There was no reason for him to really mention that. So you can tell that Powell is not, he himself, even if he's not a part of the group who's in charge of Operation Choke Point 2.0, he himself not really comfortable with crypto, but you can tell he can sense the changing wind in DC. He can tell that the atmosphere is changing. And maybe this is all related to the rumors of the possibility of Yellen and Gensler being moved or removed, whatever that ends up, or nothing, whatever that ends up being. Maybe it's all kind of related to that. Maybe that's what signaled to everybody that the administration was going to be softening its stance. Who knows? Only the future will really show us what that's all about. We also have a little bit of additional information about the EDX exchange being launched by those TradFi institutions. EDX will only trade Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash. That's right. They are not down with this modern crypto where we have a whole bunch of different coins and tokens. They're taking it back to the old days, just for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash. So how is all this relevant to Cardano? I think truly decentralized blockchains like Cardano, they are not like the human in the thumbnail to this video. They're like that camel. I think what we're seeing right now might be the result of a number of things. It might be just that the anti-crypto contingent in the US government is taking a break. Maybe they're just taking a break this week. Maybe they just didn't have much offense to put up this week. Maybe they're just taking a break and then next week it all comes back. But maybe it's something else. Maybe they've reached this point of exasperation where they realize that decentralized crypto is like that camel. It's not like that human who could easily be killed. If you take that human and put them in a harsh desert climate, maybe they've got desert survival skills and they make it out alive. But if they don't, pretty easy for the human to perish. Pretty easy to strangle the life force out of any animal that's not accustomed to or prepared for a desert environment. But decentralized crypto is more like that camel. It doesn't need a lot of water. It's accustomed to high temperatures. It's very rugged. It has a high survivability rate because of the decentralization. The prices of decentralization are many. Crypto networks, blockchains, they make terrible databases. They underperform compared to centralized servers for a lot of different use cases. But the benefit of that decentralization is that they're very hard to kill. You notice in some of the questions and answers in this hearing, it's almost like there's this sense of exhaustion and exasperation. Like they know that even if they tried to completely strangle the development of even a part of crypto, like stablecoins are just going to continue to thrive outside the US. There's almost this sense of inevitability about crypto and even about stablecoins. Even Chair Powell and Congresswoman Waters, their discussion now is not about how they should just outright ban stablecoins, how stablecoins are evil, how stablecoins are all about, criminal money laundering, terrorists and, narco traffickers and, ransomware. They weren't talking about that. They were just talking about who should regulate stablecoins. This is a change. This isn't the kind of Elizabeth Warren, Gary Gensler rhetoric. This is something different now. And it could be that they've just come to accept that Cardano, decentralized blockchains like Cardano are too rugged. They are too anti-fragile. The decentralization has bought us the same kind of survivability that camel has in the desert. Maybe they've come to realize that. Or maybe it's just that the voices animating those political actors in the past were really the TradFi interest groups, the TradFi campaign donors, the BlackRocks of the world. Maybe those were the voices that were animating all this Operation Choke Point 2.0 stuff. And now we know that those TradFi institutions have embraced crypto. So maybe the impetus for this half strangling of crypto, maybe that's all gone now. And there's no reason anymore for them to be so anti-crypto. Maybe now all the talk can just turn to how best to regulate crypto as opposed to, how best to try to kill crypto. Whatever it is, it seems like we might be going in a better direction now. Only time will tell. I hope you're having a great week, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.